Good morning. This is a video more freestyle. So recently, I mean, in fact, I think a couple minutes ago, I have released a video of adizz Pro 18% speedrun. Now, adizz Pro is a recently new topic of speedrunning. I have in fact done a few variants of the original, but this one is the, you see, the other half times a little bit. This one is intentionally smaller, but this one is the, I did the new, both of these were the new mod hit series, okay? But this one was a more test, so the episode may have some variants on it. Those two are the definitive version, so they are ready to go, okay? They're the same version, and you can see that this time is slightly smaller than this time, okay? What, 11 seconds, okay? So this is not, I don't count this for an exact speed run, because it involves a lot of modification that not by the controllers. Just to be clear, I'm doing this in the PC version, Windows 10. So it's a re-release, okay? It's the third re-release, so the original ones may have some different variants, but anyway, this one and this one are the definitive last version of the series. So the procedures that I did here was to in fact enter the game's code and modify some flat files that resulted in some really wacky textures and some really variant changes, like in speed and in pitch tone. But this is the first time that I tried to achieve the same goal of 4 minutes, and how can I say, the fastest as possible, okay? This is not the, I don't plan to stop by this, okay? I can do much faster runs on different episodes and even longer episodes. But what we can do here is I will analyze this and will explain some of the glitches and some of the exploits that can be used in case you attempt this run, okay? Yes, I am serious, okay? I hope adizz himself sees this, okay, so he can himself evaluate the value, the authenticity of this run, okay? I think it's pretty legit, and I can repeat it again, but anyway, let's do this. So, first, I'm gonna start this before the video. It's very important that you keep attention at the, if you're gonna do any percent speed run, you know that momentum is key, okay? And in this particular scenario, in this particular version, momentum is a phenomenal thing that I'm gonna show you that repeats itself along, okay? It's about velocity conservation, texture loading, and momentum, okay? So you have to keep these three things in mind. Mainly momentum. I think I even mentioned it 2 times, but anyway, let's do this, okay?
Hello everybody, adizz Pro.
Now, this one actually seems low, okay? The super jump, quadruple, double, anyway, the super jump is a fairly low tactic and any percent speed run of basically any game, okay? Basically, you allow, especially in some versions, you basically force the character to move so fast that he outruns his hitbox, okay? It's a very oversimplified version, but it can work, okay? You go so fast that hitbox can't interact properly. Now, you may think the jump sequence is pretty slow to actually force a hitbox glitch, but I'm going to explain later. But the intention is not to actually alter the initial sequence of the loading, okay? It's to alter the order that actually takes some time and breaking directly into the off camera's mining sequence, okay? So let's go.
adizz Pro. I'm once again joined by Ryan.
Now this is a very important part. Because I did the multiple jumps, the actual game has a method of saving space, okay? So it doesn't consume your RAM. Basically, when there's too much code to put in one single frame, it puts the other code that comes after on hold. So when the other code starts done processing, it processes the next input. This actually results in sometimes it can result in some pretty bad in actual gameplay. Some people complain about the difficulty in controls, but normally it's because you don't have enough RAM, so it will naturally run slowly on slower computers because it's trying to save up RAM. Okay, so what happens is I do the jumps and I do just enough so that the loading texture of the next scene, that is this specific scene, that it doesn't have an exact name, okay, but this specific scene, it has the textures glitched out because the code was put on hold. So when it was loading, I did the multiple jumps and the input managed to come before the loading for the sequence. So the texture didn't load completely, and this overwhelms part of the loading section and forces the game to kind of launches you into the next sequence that's slightly smaller, and then it comes in. Also, you will notice that this part is in actually slow motion. This happens because when you actually shave it up a lot of time in the intro, okay, it doesn't look like, but the jumps actually shave a lot of time. So the game thinks that this time is needed to be replaced, so it kind of distributes between scenes that have this little branch. So like when the code is empty, it will allow the game to actually kind of try to sync the time the time that's shaved with the time you have to gain. Okay, of course it can't do all the time because there's a limit, and naturally the next input code for generation will come and force the game to stop. So this is actually pretty cool because while you actually gain some seconds, in the long run, the seconds you actually can shave, like, it isn't a lot, but you can shave like 15 seconds from the intro using this delayed speed alteration on this cutscene. So let's go.
And
yeah, this one's as well. So the final texture loaded, and now I have to do the multiple jumps and camera turns again in order to clip me through the house, okay? Because the entering the door sequence actually spends quite a bit of time that you can shave. Like, there won't be any real damage to your speedrun if you do this normally. Like, if you enter to the house, it's actually a fairly common option. But when you can clip through the house to the walls, it's actually much more time consuming to actually go to the door. Okay, you economize like 2 seconds, which again in the long run, the original gameplay from this edition alone has like about 10 minutes, so I shaved 6 minutes just from these little tricks when you shave like 2 seconds per frame. So let's go.
mining off.
Again, I clipped through the house, and now as it's a pure audio sequence, it's a pure audio and video, there's no control input I can do here. The game will try to balance off. It will kind of glitch and will try to make the time the same, because I was not supposed to skip the intro, but I did the multiple jumps that overwhelmed the code and forced the game to distribute this time. So naturally, this scene is going to be delayed as well, with some actual reverb from the audio himself, but it will actually save quite a bit of time. If again, in the total, you can shave around 15 seconds just from the start glitch. And this one is as well. It basically happens when you interact with the chest as soon as it is interactable. So when the cutscene ends, there will be there's the first frame where the game says, okay, you can mess with stuff now. So the first thing you want to do is interact with the chest while the cutscene is still kind of closing but not totally closed. So this will force the game to reload the cutscene, but it's detected as already ended. So you interact with the chest again, and you do this, you kind of overwhelms the code again, which again can shave a lot of time in the future.
I'm gonna get kicked.
This is the super damage boosting. So in this sequence, in the original, you can kind of see here is the guy left the game. But if you damage boost, like if you manage to keep him in one place and hit him multiple times using the time shaving, you can actually force him to disconnect sooner, and essentially the game will think that you already have passed the sequence and will force you to the next one. This as well, again, momentum conservation. You can see here that there's no roof, okay? This happens because you essentially clip through the staircase that is on a roof, and when you clip through it, it kind of launches you in front, but it also launches you down. So if you make the multiple jumps again, you can actually keep yourself clipped into the ladder for a few moments before it releases at total force. Okay, again, momentum preservance is very important on this run, and it's a very useful thing that as the codes don't waste many RAM, so with like in order, the momentum that you build essentially is going to be applied when the game detects it's available and the RAM is enough to run this kind of velocity. Again, it can result in some pretty wacky video sequences that slow radically down or speed radically up, but it's essentially gonna make you end the game faster. And this one is specifically because while you have the obvious time difference, you actually have a lot of distance. Okay, so there's a whole lot of scenes that happen in between, like from the house to this point. There's a lot of time that's spent purely going through to here and other stuff that happens in this area. By raising your momentum, you actually don't allow the game to reload the area. So when it loads here, it's actually loading the animal scene. So it completely skips the need to do anything that's on this part related, and consequently the game makes the sunset be on this time because it thinks you have already gone through most of the day.
That's a lot of animals. It's not.
This is again another case. This sequence of the animals is actually deleted, like it is gone through here. But if you make the perfect parkour jump, you can actually clip through the very corner of this. I think it's diorite. Yes, no, it's granite. You can clip through this granite, and again you can raise this momentum and force the game to skip you into the next scene. Skipping scenes is a very simple step on this speedrun on adizz Pro, but it's actually kind of hard to pull it off because you have to clip through enough times and for enough time each move, so that the game will overwhelm and force you to the next goal to cancel most and don't spend any RAM. Again, this is a very important part because normally a big part of the actual sequence is you filling this container. Okay, so what you can do is use a deposit time glitch that allows you to essentially make this much quicker. I'm gonna explain this in a second.
Chest plate. Yeah, I'm filling this thing up over here, so
again you can see it's a very tricky thing to pull off, but you can see there that I clicked multiple times and essentially forced when I have that 9 copper ingots, you can actually click multiple times, and what happens is that the game will try to put the 9 copper ingots in the smelter. But what happens is that if you click again before you can actually do this, it will try to run one process after another, essentially allowing you to duplicate really quick and from only this sole purpose to fill the container previously, shaving like, I don't know, probably a minute and a half of the speedrun.
Can't see the ingots in there anymore. And then there's
this part is actually pretty tricky because there's some parts that I cannot find any ways of actually passing them without going out of bounds, like glitching through the floor, forcing essentially the game to reload on the next previous cutscene, and essentially shaving a few minutes. Actually is a very big shave, but actually isn't quite correct because you go out of bounds. It's like you can click through the floor, and the game won't detect any available places, so we will naturally just skips.
144 ingots worth of copper in there. So we better get 144 ingots worth of tools. There it goes. It's full. It's gonna do a thing. Right? Ah! Yeah, so it's
That again is really... You can see that you have the hammer head pattern.
You got another one, put it on.
While this is actually tricky, you can actually again make the game made the 2 states of the object available, shaving a few seconds again, and essentially allowing to already place this here, which already shave a bit of time, shave like 1.5 seconds.
On the table.
How do you make a...
Okay, let's see what happens when I do this.
I'm trying to figure...
Alright, what happens when...
This is actually again when the momentum is applied. Okay, so essentially this whole part is basically a cutscene. There's a lot of proper triggers and interactions you have to do in a specifically order. So the momentum is set, okay? The momentum is basically set. You can do very few things like placing, etc. So if you do this correctly, the momentum you previously have is conserved and will now be applied, essentially allowing you to force the part when he explains that he's gonna jump in the molten copper.
Can you jump into molten copper?
And this again because actually it takes some time for you to take the amount of damage. The game actually forces you to take amount of damage, but the trick is it counts damage per times you enter. So every time you enter, you take a set amount of damage from the previously established. So if you enter and exit really fast, you can actually force the game to load multiple times the same amount of damage, essentially allowing you to skip the whole burning sequence.
Wait, so you actually die though?
Yeah, it's molten copper.
Good job. Now you know what you sacrifice for science. Okay, I'm gonna try and figure this out.
I'm gonna go murder some more local wildlife.
Again, this is really tricky because you can't actually skip, but what you can do is apply the momentum and gain some momentum in the next sequence that I'm gonna show you. This is the creeper sequence.
Alright, go ahead. I'm gonna figure out how to make a cast.
There's a creeper. That's not local wildlife. Must exterminate.
So again, you damage boost the creeper, which will essentially allow you to skip the... I think it's a double hit. Anyway, you skip a bit of the actual hit by hitting him multiple times, and then essentially forces you into the explosion sequence. Again, this is a delayed momentum appliance that happens because the game has so much processor that it doesn't know whether to process one thing or not. So it puts a lot of things on hold that if you do everything correctly will be sooner or later be applied, and this can actually be very helpful. Again, too much momentum and even the regular momentum, if you actually lose a bit of seconds like stuck in a tree or jumping or getting lost, the momentum will actually apply enough for your moment and you can end up clipping through the floor or through the skybox, which is even worse because the run's completely lost.
That looks natural. It's autumn.
You should go to that battle tower.
Okay. Alright, who wants some of this?
Okay.
The battle tower sequence is actually pretty good as well, because as in Mario 64 you can actually do this because the momentum previously established, you can combine him with the jump force, then you can actually basically fly through the stairs. Now the momentum will actually push you forwards and the stairs will give you a little bump. So what happens is that when you apply the jump force, the three will actually combine and make you clip through the next floor, where you can actually shave some time depending on which floor you land. Again, it's very relative to how fast and how much momentum, how fast you were going and how much momentum you could build before this the battle tower sequence started.
Shield now, I'm ready. That's a creeper. That worked out in my favor very well. Yeah. Whoa!
Again, the combat is not really that much skippable. Again, you can skip a bit of a fraction of a second, but this can come off at a cost, as again the game skipping a scene but the momentum will apply it in an erratic moment. Again, there's a really lot of things that you have to keep in mind, and one of them is momentum preservers in this game, because we'll put the momentum on hold until it is actually applicable.
Alright.
Again, you can see that I run at the staircase because when I exit the battle sequence, the game automatically start processing the momentum code. But if I do the clipping correctly, I will clip in the staircase, and I can go down. I can force the character down to clip him more time, and boost my jump force as well as my momentum. So then essentially you can skip through the next sequence to the floor. This combat sequencing that actually allow me to skip a whole staircase.
Right. What?
So I just need a perfect that.
This is again another chest spam. You can basically overwhelm the code and force him to boost you to the next. Again, when it comes to chests, they're really useful for showing sometimes. Like basically every chest sequence on this section is perfectly skippable if you spam the chest. If you just click the chest and you exit at the very last frame that is interactable, the game will try to load both the cutscene and the action at the same time, essentially overwhelming and forcing you to skip to the next scene. This is a very tricky sequence because what you actually do is you skip the chest sequence, then you go to the teleport to the staircase, which already apply your previous momentum that was conserved because you enter immediately in a battle sequence. And if you do this correctly, you can actually boost yourself to the window sequence. And if you do this correctly, again, you can actually shortly no clip at the cobblestone and force your downwards momentum to rise by pressing down multiple times and actually jumping, bumping your head into the top of the window, forcing you down while still in a relative no clip because your hitbox is a bit delayed. So you essentially hit the floor a lot faster and you die a lot faster because this actually shows sometimes because the death sequences are pretty tricky because it actually takes some time so you can actually interact. So the sooner you die, and if you do this correctly, you can interact with the game previously, and then you can essentially go on and begin gathering your items.
What? I landed in the water!
Again, you can actually see the very first frame you have to spam click respawn because there's a few frames before the cutscene actually begins that you can still interact with the game properly, so you can still respawn before the cutscene, skipping the whole death sequence.
This game is dog.
Get the water.
Again, you have to do the ladder clip to arrive at the battle tower. I will just raise the quality a bit because this is actually terrible. Okay, now we're good.
It is here.
You can see I clipped this time both through the log as well as the staircase, because in order to reach the top of the battle tower faster, what you have to do is you have to boost both your upwards momentum as well as your forwards momentum in the direction of the battle tower. This is a very tricky thing because once you end the clipping through the log and the staircase, it's basically done. The direction you're going to end up at that direction. So you have to kind of sync the moment that you clip through the walls. You end up in a battle sequence, your hitbox will reload, and it will essentially allow you to enter the battle sequence with the boss, the first battle sequence, without any real consequences.
He doesn't like me being here.
And this is a classic. I actually build up a bit of momentum up there, and this you will see that is actually speeded up version because of the, as I said, it's trying to keep up everything, the audio, the sounds, the damage. It's trying to keep up, and as I glitch the intro, it is trying to adjust and distribute that into the audio. So it's actually trying to shave a few seconds at a game because of the delay time. It's a very tricky calculation because the game actually messes with the cutscenes a bit because one, it delayed too much on the start, and the second one added a bit of delay. So now it's trying to shave off and bump you to the next, directly to the end of this cutscene sequence.
Oh!
And here we are at the end of the cutscene, the battle sequence again. And this one you can actually, I think I will do this, but I don't know because there's a lot of glitches that you can actually do, but I didn't do in this run because I was just experimenting. So there's a glitch where you can actually just clip through the floor and not through the holes. You can actually clip through the floor without any real damage. But
you need to go, bro.
Yeah, I do this. You can actually clip outside as well, and you can clip. There's supposed to be a water bucket here at his where his feet are. You can actually clip through the water bucket sequence, and again, if you boost your downwards momentum correctly, you can actually hit the floor a lot faster.
There?
This is very tricky because all the momentum you build, a great part of it is being applied right now as it is a purely walking sequence, so you can actually boost your momentum a lot, and using the water bucket and the downwards momentum boost correctly, you can actually hit your point a lot faster and actually build more momentum so you can launch yourself in the direction of the house without having to interact with the trees. So you can basically no clip your hitbox again, forcing you to reload in the next scene, reloading your hitbox, and again, don't causing any damage.
I know. Before quarry.
And then we actually went fast enough to actually force the house to skip the house sequence, so you can actually go again in the battle tower sequence. It's a very cool trick. There's a lot of places you can no clip in order to boost your momentum, but those are my favorite: the ladder, the log, and the staircases.
I mean, I know we're not qualified for that yet, but
We're gonna destroy an entire mountain.
yes, preferably this one.
Again, this one's not really skipped because it's just this cutscene cuts directly to the battle sequence, so you have to be pretty skilled. You have to enter directly the staircase sequence directly to the last place, to the last level, last floor, so you can actually do this the most efficient way possible.
How did you get down there? Alright, well, yeah, actually, you can chill down there.
Again, we're here on one of the last floors. Again, momentum preservance and the staircase glitch can really help you, because when you go too fast, the game doesn't know where to put it, and if you go too close or sometimes even beyond a bit of skybox, but you don't go too far, the game can still load you in the view or in the very code. It will actually send you to the nearest available place, that in this case a cutscene, and as the rest of the staircase didn't reload, and as I went through the staircase, they're gonna detect I already have been there, and it will send me to the next available and already loaded place. That happens to be this chest sequence.
Get the chest. What was it? Oh,
Again, chest spam and item collecting spam are really nice to overwhelm part of the code and force you to the next sequence. This is the high jump sequence. It doesn't have an actual end, but if you do this correctly, you can actually shortly no clip through the stone, forcing you, because there's a height trigger, because when it hits a certain height, it actually tells the game to skip the next cutscene. So what you have to do is actually again boost your downwards momentum to hit the height as fast as possible.
Alright, go to 3 major die.
And then you boost damage the boss again using your momentum and your already previous build of excess damage. And then you can go to the battle tower destruction sequence.
The tower is falling. I don't know, there's probably a chest at the top that I can't get. 6 diamonds! We're going to the Twilight Forest!
This first is not really skippable, but the rest are perfectly are. By spamming a couple sequence of buttons of direction, you can actually overwhelm the game and force him to load the explosions faster than it actually would. Then end up with a sequence like this. And the tower is gone.
0.6.4.
More explosion! Fight!
Again, you can use the clip and the jump glitch to actually force you through the tower, and when you arrive at a certain part of the tower, it will actually trigger the end of the cutscene and send you directly to the Twilight cutscene.
To the god!
This is actually, again, if you throw and collect the diamond simultaneously, you can actually make the diamond land on the water, shaving you some time and actually summoning the lighting faster, and this can actually save you some time in the water bucket sequence.
God.
You can see that the lighting at one time was barely visible because it was again trying to decide whether the diamond landed or not, and when this found out that it's landed exactly, it will actually shave you a bit of the time from the fire sequence and the lighting sequence itself.
You're making an infuser. Oh, did you make
Again,
a
you do this.
portal?
And the water bucket sequence again. Actually, water is a bit tricky because it actually moves you, so it adds your momentum. But if you do this correctly, you can actually glitch the momentum into actually launching you in the previous direction that is established by where you're looking. And if you do this correctly, again, this doesn't give exactly a lot of momentum, but it can actually allow you to skip the corridor sequence directly into the portal.
I have hyper.
If you do this correctly, again, the momentum conservation, you can actually skip the first tree chopping sequence and going to the next directly to the second one. That's actually very useful.
Throw me up. Ow! Ow! I'm dying of hyper.
Cool.
Again, you have to do this glitch when it will speed up this little creature sequence that is damaging you. So just essentially skips it by making you move faster in the direction that it's supposed to end, and the creature already takes the damage that it shouldn't have taken.
I just put iron and copper in
I
there.
got the science sign. Notes on an icy cave. Oh hi.
The skeleton sequence again is very useful because there is an actual jump that you can now boost your downwards momentum, glitch you in the floor, and then use this glitch to boost your momentum through the portal, killing the skeleton because of the impact and boosting you through the portal. And when he jumps after exiting the portal, you can actually do a speed jump directly into the house. You can actually no clip through the walls. That's very useful. And you can actually again skip the decorative bug sequence by spamming, clicking, and remove. It's not very exciting. It doesn't seem very fast. It actually kind of seems pretty slow compared to the other movements, but it actually saves a lot of time.
Whoa, Mr. Skeleton, that's cheating.
What do you do?
He just like bee-hopped on me.
Nah. Scrub. Okay, I need to watch it.
Again, this is the jump you can do. That's the kill. And now you can actually buff your upwards and downwards momentum. You will always want to kinda end up in the portal with the downwards momentum, because under the portal there is still dirt. The game is to process that. So if you clip in the dirt fast enough, the game won't be able to teleport you in time, and you can actually boost your upwards momentum again, so you can do the jump directly into the house.
Awesome.
Like that. You originally spawn on the near the river, like you spawn basically at the margin of the river, but you can actually skip through the house, because when you boost your upwards momentum enough, it will actually kind of float, and then you can speed jump directly into the house, and then you can exit again.
So some decoration bugs.
We'll put them on the house.
Again, this boosts a bit of your momentum, and the bug actually again, if you do it correctly, it doesn't need enough, because at this point because of the previous momentum that you gain, like from just glitching to boost the bugs, you can actually overwhelm the code by just a bit, so you can skip directly into the smelter scene again and the creeper scene that can actually again boost your momentum.
Oh god.
I guess I need to turn all this back into stuff because I can't take the iron out.
Is it possible to like just what?
This is again a very you can actually again there's a very few frames that you can actually interact with the game and the cutscene at the same time. So if you actually go and enter and leave the trigger, you can actually glitch the cutscene to complete the skipping.
Over there, and I think there's one over there. We have a dream, and our dream is to go to Jupiter's moons. What?
We need one more.
Alright, well, thank you guys for watching the video.
Then this is the same glitch as you can do in the intro. You can do at the outro, and you can actually skip the whole outro.
The video.
And this is it. I think I explained everything. If you give this a go yourself. Again, this is a very it's a very long record for like 10 minutes. Yeah, we only shipped 6. So if you can do this any faster, feel free to do it. I appreciate, and see ya.